Thanks very much. Small group Friday afternoon. This is a project area that's the focus of the company. We just recently sold a conventional platinum mine to our next door neighbor to focus on a much more significant, larger deposit that's dominated by palladium. And we have some really exciting information on palladium itself that we think you'll be interested in. This is a great deposit. It's completely different than anything else in South Africa. We discovered it with a drill rig in 2011, 2012. And as you can see, it's a very rural area without a lot of people around. So it's a great place to go and develop a mine. Standard forward-looking statements and cautions were listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange. Overview of the project, importantly, Impala Platinum came in just recently and bought a 15% stake in the asset for $30 million in cash. Quite unusual for a major producer to come in and pay cash up front for a stake. They have the right to go to 50.01%. for another $166 million. And just in our last financing closed on Tuesday, we have a new strategic shareholder, some of you might know, in Hoskin Consolidated. They're listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, about a $1.2 billion company with significant earnings. Palladium market is in fundamental deficit, and we see a very strong market going forward with some new data. On this project, we staked this essentially, so our acquisition cost was zero. And when we discovered it, there was nothing else there, so we acquired by staking about 1,000 square kilometers. So we have the entire new district. It's north of the Anglo-American Mogalakwena mine, the most profitable platinum mine in the world, which is a bulk mining open pit. And it's north of Ivanhoe's project that many of you may have heard of as well. Why is Waterberg different? It's the thickness. It's near surface. It's 140 meters from surface under sedimentary rock cover. That's why it was there. And the stopes are 40 meters or more in the bulk of the deposit. So you're literally dropping a 13-story office building with every blast. It's a completely different animal than 1.2 meters thick in a conventional Merensky mine, and we've actually mined a conventional Merensky mine. It's very difficult, we know from firsthand experience. Also importantly, the concentrate has no chrome, and it has exactly the right amount of base metals to go into the existing smelter complexes. Share capital structure, I won't go through that in detail. It's available on our website. We just issued about our market cap to raise $20 million on Tuesday. We do have some debt remaining, $34 million worth of debt to Liberty, but it's to one of our major shareholders in Liberty, and they've deferred any further payment of that debt until October 2019. The reason that's important is that we have the important decision on Impala's option coming up before that time. Major shareholders include Franklin Templeton, BlackRock, and Liberty. Palladium market, most people know palladium's outperformed. Why is that? It's because of the drastic increase in palladium demand for small gasoline engines, and that market is growing very quickly. Most analysts believe we're in deficit on the palladium market, but this is the data that's new, and you're welcome to get this on our website with our presentation. We've been very close to BASF. They were a potential strategic investor with us. They visited the property and did due diligence, and they've shared this information from their own orders for catalytic converters. And with all the hype around about electric vehicles, people have missed a major fundamental feature here, and that's in basic cars, that the demand for palladium is expected to go, this is from BASF, from 2.1 million ounces a year now up to 3.1 million ounces in 2020. And it's based on a legislated change which is in place in China. So the fuel was cleaned up in the refineries in 2017 that allowed this act to go through so that the catalyst can be effective. And you're talking about 3.1 million ounces in small Chinese vehicles in 2020. That's only a few months away, really. And BASF actually has the orders on their books for these catalysts to build them now. So this is a very significant change in this market. And palladium, curiously enough, is actually in backwardation. So we've seen draw out of the palladium ETF. We've seen demand in short-term palladium. And the forward palladium is actually in backwardation, which is amazing given this fundamental change. If we look at auto sector, a lot of hype about electric vehicles. But we see a very tight market because of full hybrid cars actually using more palladium. Just to jump forward, the current arrangement we have, we own 50% of the asset. Impala has 15%, the Japanese government has 21%. At the conclusion of the definitive feasibility study, Impala has 90 days to make an election. And that election is to go up to 50%. They have to do three things. They have to make a full commitment to $130 million of construction in equity first, all at their cost. They have to give full project financing for 100% of the project partners. And they have to buy 12% from our Japanese partner for $35 million. And all of those are linked. So our Japanese partner will go down to 5%. However, they got a very interesting right, which they were very interested in on this strategic asset, was they got the right to the final refined metal to go all back to Japan. So that's platinum, palladium, rhodium, gold, copper, nickel, iridium, ruthenium, all going back to Japan in final refined form. Just a view of the asset, we artificially cut it off at 1,250 meters deep. It's 140 meters at the shallowest edge. It's 13 kilometers long. We couldn't find the end of it. We drilled 1 kilometer step outs and we kept hitting it. Basic statistics, it's dominated by palladium, as you can see in the center. It's also a 1.87 million ounce gold deposit. Total resources are 35 million ounces. Basic stats are in an independent pre-feasibility study by Worley Parsons. The important numbers to notice here are it's a 744,000 ounce a year mine with about 3,000 people. So it's basically the size of Lonmin with 1/10 of the people, and that's because of the bulk mining. It's a 19-year mine life, and one of the options we're looking at in the definitive feasibility study underway now is starting at a 50% scale, a small mine at 370,000 ounces a year, sounds ridiculous, which would cut the capital cost significantly. So that's one of the options we're studying. When palladium hit $1,100 a couple of months ago, the net present value went up from about $500 million up to $790 million. So very sensitive to the palladium price and the basket price. And this is where it sits on the cost curve. So notice that Impala's lease, according to SFA Oxford, is right at the top end of the cost curve. So there's about 40,000 people that work there, whereas Waterberg sits right at the bottom of the curve. $481 an ounce cash cost, and that includes the smelter discount as a cost. Don't have time to go into this slide, but it shows productivity, number of ounces per man per month. Amazingly, the western limb of the Bushveld complex is at 2 to 3 ounces per man per month. Why did Anglo sell their Rustenburg section and go to Mahalaquena in the northern limb? Because it's 34 ounces per man per month. The eastern limb has some profitable mines at 5 to 10 ounces per man per month. Waterberg in the independent pre-feasibility study is 17.9 ounces per man per month. We did a comparison against Stillwater. It's a very similar asset, in fact. Importantly, the base metals are at the right level to go straight into Impala's refinery. And we're currently in the definitive feasibility study. So the target, next milestones for us are June for the updated resource at the end of June, and then a definitive feasibility study in the first quarter of 2019. And that brings up 90 days for Impala's decision to opt in, and we're a very different company. Mining right application will also go in this summer, and we're very proud to have a new fully empowered major shareholder at the top level of the company as well. So under South African legislation, we're actually over-empowered with a 14% ownership of HCI. So it's a very exciting time for us. We've been through a difficult road. We're very fortunate to have supportive shareholders and lenders that have worked closely with us, and we think that this year will be a very interesting year in the palladium market. Thanks very much.